coming back to school with me. We could have done it all so easily.
Hi, my name is Craig Thompson-Wood and welcome to the classroom. Today we're learning Paperback by Tim Fowers. Paperback is a game which is recommended for 2 to 5 players, ages 10 and up, and takes 45 minutes. Now, I recommend it for 2 to 5 players, but as for ages 10 plus, I play it with my grade 4s who are 9 years old and they do just fine with it. And as for 45 minutes, well, I use it daily in a 40-minute language period, and so depending on how you're using it, then 45 minutes is just, a suggestion. If you're watching this video for educational purposes, how to implement this into your classroom, and are not interested in the rules explanations right now, then hit this link to jump forward to the part where I start talking about how to implement it into a classroom setting. If you're watching this video for information on how that's played, is according to the rules supplied in the box, then I suggest you maybe look up another video on Paperback which talks about rules explanations, because I'm going to be teaching the game how I teach it to my students in the classroom. I take out some of the rules with victory points, things like that, which aren't sort of necessary for my purposes. I'm more interested in the other language learning that goes on within the game. So I don't use the victory point cards and things like that. I have other ways to motivate and encourage the students to have some healthy competition. So if you're still watching, let's get right to the rules. I'll show you how it's set up and then take you through how it's played. When setting up for a game of Paperback, each player is going to get 10 cards, which I will explain in a little bit about which 10 cards that each will receive. But needless to say, each of the 10 players will have the same starting cards as each other. Within easy reach of all other players, you should put the other cards into their appropriate colored decks. At the bottom of each deck, you also can see a numerical value in cents. 2 cents, 3 cents, 4 cents, 5, 6, 7. But don't be fooled by the last deck. It can say 8, but even those same colors, some are 9 and some are even 10-cent cards. I'll explain what those mean in just a little bit. But put those in numerical order so people can easily find which cards they're going to want. Have the common card deck within easy visibility of all, and these little wooden cubes, which again, I'll explain in a little bit. But once everybody has their own deck of cards, has easy access to all the cards in the center of the table, in numerical value, you're ready to begin. The game Paperback is what is known as, in modern board game lingo, as a deck building game. In a deck builder, it's all about cards, and everybody is going to start with the same 10 cards. You're going to start with an R, an N, an S, a T, and an L, the most common letters used in English language words. And then there's going to be 5 wild cards. These wild cards have the heroine of the game, Miss Paige Turner, writing her book. So these cards can be used for any letter that you want. And I'll explain so what you're going to do at the beginning of the game is everybody's going to shuffle up their 10 cards, and they are then going to deal themselves 5 cards. With those 5 cards then, they are then looking to see what words can they build. So here I have T, 3 wild cards, and an R. So I might make a word like rotor, R-O-T-O-R. Now, what I would do in this case is I would look at the points values on the card. Underneath the letter here, there's a 1 and a 1. Note that the wild cards have zeros. This is because the wild cards are easy to use, so you're not going to get any points for using them. But with 2 points then, I then look at the cost of the cards in the bottom row here. I can then buy one of these cards for however much money I have. In this case, with 2 cents, I can only buy one 2-cent card. And note on these cards, it says trash after use. So this is a card I could use. It's going to give me 2 points the next time, but I'm going to have to trash it, so I'll get rid of it out of my deck after I've done it. And you will find some cards have text at the bottom. And you can, when you play these cards in a word, these cards have to be played in a word in order to use the text at the bottom. So I would then take that into my hand, I would put that to one side, and my turn is over. Now, just want to quickly mention too, that they have these common cards. The common cards are ones that can be used by all the players at the table. Now, one change I've made when I play with my students is the students can't buy these cards like you can in the regular game. Because in the regular game, they're worth 5 points if you buy them. I don't do that. The common cards, everybody at the table gets one turn with, if A is the top common card, everybody can use the A in their word. So if I'm looking at my next hand here, and I have these, I could spell snail, S-N-A-I-L. Or, that would give me 1, 2, 3 points. Or, I could say, well, I'm going to use the common A. And so, it's like as though I did this. You don't actually have to take the card, because like as I say, the card is there available for everybody to use, but now it's S-N-A-I-L. Now that I've used the common card, I get 1 extra point that I wouldn't have got before, and so now I get to use that, and now I can build, now I can get 4 points instead of 3. In these cases too, there may even be chances to use the words to make larger words than you couldn't have used before, so you actually can be using 6 letters instead of just the 5. When you have something like 4 points here, as I have with my word snail, you then have the choice 2 cents, 3 cents, 4 cents. So I could take a 4-cent card, and you notice that it comes with the consonant digraph, CH, and I can use all my 4 points on that one. The nice thing about this one is it gives me 3 points towards my next card, which is how you start to be able to afford the more expensive cards. I could also buy this 3-cent card with AT, or I could maybe buy 2 2-cent cards, which would total 4. So you are able to buy multiple cards as long as you can afford it. Again, any cards you buy would then go into your discard pile. Once you have no more cards in hand, then you take all your cards back, you shuffle up, and you start again. And you keep repeating this until you feel like finishing up the game. One thing to remember is if during your turn you're drawing your next hand, if you have 1 card left, well, you play the 1 card. At that point, you take back your discards, shuffle them up, and then deal yourself 4 more cards. With the common cards, everybody is going to get 1 turn with the common card. After everybody has had 1 turn, then I put that card on the bottom, revealing the next one. In this case, we have a common I. Everybody can now use the letter I in their words for free, and well, more than free, they will get paid 1 point for using it. And then an E, and then an O. Not all of these common cards are letters, however. A couple of these are a lot of fun. Let's have a look at them. The first one is the common space bar. In the common space bar, you're using the space bar to make 2 words. 3, 4, 5. So in this case, with these letters, I could make the word is, and then O-N-E for 1. So I-S-O-N-E. I've made 2 words because I can do that now because I put a space bar between them. So I did use the space bar, so I'm getting 2, 3, 4, 5 points now for my 2 words here using the space bar. And then I would then buy a card for 5 cents, or a 3 and a 2, or any combination that I wish, depending on which cards I think are going to be the most helpful to me, and put them in my discard. The final of the common cards is the common dyslexic. This one's my personal favorite. With the common dyslexic, what you can do is if you have a 2-letter card, like CH or AT or TE, you can reverse the letters. So I can't think of any words off the top of my head that have H then C in them, but you could do it if you could think of one. But you could do TA instead of AT. So if you do that in your word, then the common dyslexic card, again, is going to grant you 1 point for doing so. A lot of fun, that card, and it really gets the students thinking about some creative words. If during the course of the game students are stuck, there is a really cool built-in cooperative mechanic that's not just totally altruistic. It allows the students to get some benefit for help. It encourages them to help their peers. So if I'm looking at my words here, I have my 5 cards, and I'm stuck. I can't think of anything. I just say, AT. It's 1 point. But somebody looks at that and says, well, you could say LATER for later. That's better. That gives you 3 points instead of 1. If I agree to their suggestion, and I take their suggestion, then what happens is the student who makes the suggestion gets this, and very appropriately named writer's block. So they get the writer's block, so the next time they score a word, they can add the writer's block to it for 1 more point. So remember, this is given to the student who makes the suggestion to help the other student, to give them more points. So it's win-win. The student who's building the word gets a better word, gets more points. They also get to learn a new word that they didn't see before, and it also benefits the student who helps them. I really love these writer's blocks, and I think they're a fantastic addition to the game. So what I do not include in the classroom game, which is in the regular game, is I don't include any of the victory points cards, and I don't have the students buy the common decks. I find the students have enough fun just making the words. They write the words into their books, and they're on the challenge to see who can build the biggest and best words, and that's enough for them. And it also means that I don't need to worry about time limits, because they can play for as little or for as long as we want, just enjoying the game for what it is and building the words and having fun at that, not worrying so much about points and winning each round. So it takes a lot of pressure off and allows them to just relax into the game and have fun without worrying about winning or losing. Let's take another look at the text on the bottom of the cards. What's important to note with these is that whenever you're going to use the text on the bottom of the card, you have to have used the letter in the word that you've constructed that turn. So if you do not use this E, you do not have to trash it after the use. But by the same token, then you're not getting the points for it. So all of these red 2-cent cards have the same message at the bottom: trash after use. When you trash a card, it is different than discarding, because when you trash a card, you remove it from the game. You're not using that card again for the remainder of this game. You will, of course, bring it back for future games, so don't throw it out, but just for this game. Discard, you put to one side and you'll put back into your hand after all are used. Trash is removed from the game. Some cards have the keyword attack on them. An attack card means that it affects the other players at the table. Whenever I play an attack card, I keep it in front of me as a reminder. After I've cleared the rest of my word into the discard pile, I leave the attack card present in front of me to remind the other players and myself that this card is in effect. For example, this attack card says you cannot draw more than 5 cards. Well, normally we can't draw more than 5 cards in a turn, but some cards like this one will allow you to. This one says if you have a wild card left in your hand, plus one card next hand. So if I use this cue to build a word, then in my and I have a wild card left in my hand that I didn't use, I can take a 6th card on my next turn, but not if this person had played this particular attack card. A lot of the different cards, I feel the text is pretty self-explanatory. students or children may need some help understanding what some of them mean. They may ask you for help, but overall, I think that they can be figured out without too much trouble, and I have had very few questions from my students about them. So that's the card text. Just remember, you have to use the letters in the words if you want to use the text at the bottom. One other thing you can do to add some more focus to your games of paperback, and I've done with mine, is I encourage the students to use the cards to build their spelling words from their spelling lists each week. If they can do that, there's bonus points and extra incentive involved. You can also do that for any words within their science glossary. So if they're doing pulleys or gears, maybe they can spell words like gear or force. Or if you're doing social studies, maybe they can spell words like ancient or things, any words you can think of that are related to that topic. So just another fun way to encourage the students to have a little more focus in their games. Play for fun, but steer that fun into some focus and some real good learning. Considering the educational components of a game like Paperback, you only need to see its similarities to Scrabble to see its similarities in what you could be learning from it. In Scrabble, you're using letters to build words. In Paperback, you're building letters to use words. So right there, you're seeing that there's a language component, which is spelling. You have to be able to spell these words. And as you get more familiar with the game, you want to use better words, bigger words, which then increases your vocabulary. I have students asking me many times, is this a word? Is this a word? But instead of telling them whether or not it's a word, often I will direct them to a dictionary or some other source so they can check it out for themselves. Also, maybe this is a good opportunity to be breaking down the word using context clues or thinking of where they've heard the word or what it might mean. So as you're building the words in Paperback, you are going to be counting up the points that you score for each card. So there's some basic single-digit addition in there. You are then also going to be using those cards that you've used to buy new cards. So then you're going to deduct the cost of the points that you have from the cost of the new cards. Unlike Scrabble, where you're just drawing tiles randomly, this game you're going to be actively choosing the cards that you're selecting from round to round. So there's a lot more critical thinking and strategy than you would get in a game like Scrabble. So overall, there's just really a lot of great things you can learn from Paperback, and from my experience, the kids are loving it. So I would highly recommend this for your classroom. Now let's have a talk about how to actually implement it in your classroom. When considering how to use a game like Paperback in your classroom, there's always the easy choice of having it there available for students who have free time or for rainy days when the students are inside for indoor recess. But I actually like to use this as part of my everyday curriculum. In my Daily 5 program, I have Paperback as one of the centers. So where some students may be reading with me in a guided reading center, some are in a reading to self center or doing other things literacy based, one group can be playing a game like Paperback in order to build their literacy skills. They have a lot of fun with it, and it's great learning. To keep students motivated with Paperback, what I've been doing is I have an ongoing challenge to see who can build the most expensive word, which is a word that generates the most points on the cards. The other challenge we have is who can build the longest word. Currently, the most expensive word is bomb, B-O-M-B, which came out to 39 cents. And the longest word is restored, which is R-E-S-T-O-R-E-D, 8 letters. So great job, guys. Now, if nobody beats those words by the end of the year, then what I'm going to do is I'll put them up on a plaque on the wall to remind everybody that these are the best words I've ever seen in the game. And my students next year can then be challenged, can you beat those words? And if they beat those words, then they will go up on the wall, and so on. It's fun, friendly competition, and it just helps to motivate the students to really try their best, because the only way to get to those kinds of scores is to be playing well throughout the game so that towards the end you can have the cards necessary to generate such points and such length of words. So that's Paperback. I think this game is a great game as an addition to any classroom or family that wants to practice in their spelling and vocabulary skills. I especially think this game would be great for an ESL classroom, for any teachers out there who are teaching ESL students, maybe in other countries. I think Paperback is a wonderful game because it allows the students to build words at their own pace and allows other students, through the use of the writer's blocks, to allow to make suggestions and help. It's a whole cooperative thing that can really be a great and fun learning experience that I think is one that every teacher should be including in their classroom in some way or another. I would recommend this maybe for junior students, so grades 4 and up. I don't think that it would be great for grade 3 students, maybe. I mean, that depends on your students and things, but I would leave that one up to you to decide. So, thanks very much for coming out. If you have any other suggestions for games that you know of that you'd like to see me talk about on this channel, or any other games or ideas you have that you'd like me to discuss, please leave me a message in the comments below. But until then, thanks for coming to the classroom. I'm Craig Thompson Wood, the board game teacher.
Are you